Hi, people. I hope this works. We're having internet problems, or I am having internet problems. So we're going to talk to ignore cave people with the help of Denise Ramon. Her information is in the description box below, but it's also going to be on the splash screen. And Eric, my darling boy on the other side, is going to help. You ready,
Yes,
guys?
yes. He says, "Hi, Mom.
I
Hi."
love you.
He loves you. He's just real excited to be here with us. He says, just real excited, real bubbly.
Awesome. We're going to probably do
Yeah.
this in two parts. Might be
Okay.
more than that, but all right. Can you get some sort of spokesman from the Neanderthal hominid species, Eric?
He says yes, and it feels like it's masculine energy, like a man that he's
Okay.
bringing forward. Not that a female can't speak, but this is like the spokesperson that he says that feels good for me. He says it's pointing to myself and him and the person that he's bringing in. He says our energies work well together.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I did the 23andMe and found out that I have a lot more Neanderthal DNA in me than a lot of people, which apparently makes sense because I have a poor sense of direction. So apparently Neanderthals do. So is it true, Mr. Neanderthal man? What would you like me to call you?
Um, you know, I they didn't speak English from what I'm gathering from him, or that
Yeah.
wasn't their language because I'm not understanding him. So when I get that feeling, it's like the drain's clogged, and when I acknowledge that English wasn't their first language or they didn't speak English, then the clog opens up.
Okay.
Um, he said um, there really wasn't a name to put to him back then. So I felt that, but he says we can call him Tom to simplify it for
Okay.
us. Yeah.
All right. Is it true that you were created by combining humanoid DNA with ape DNA, then enslaved by the Anunnaki to mine gold for them? Is there any truth to that?
Um, he says there is truth that their DNA was mixed with the humanoids, with that. Were they to slave for gold and stuff? He says we were definitely put here to do work for people.
So Anunnaki? I mean, did you have extraterrestrial communication with the extraterrestrials?
He says yes, definitely. That was a big form of their communication
Mhm.
because it was he said it's kind of like it was experimental with them being here.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
basically, they took humanoid DNA and combine it with ape DNA, or did they combine it with extraterrestrial DNA, like Anunnaki DNA?
I don't get that they combined it with ape DNA.
Okay, yeah,
Usually, yeah, I don't get that from him. He's saying extraterrestrial type.
yeah.
Yeah, that's what he's telling me.
I think that Anunnaki geneticists, the name of me, I think Wyatt, the rah rah man, as Lucas called him. They tried, but it died. All the fetuses all died when they tried to combine it with ape DNA. All right. Was your race ever able to live freely side by side with humanoids?
He says, I'm getting yes, but not like we are living amongst each other. It was very different. And the way he showed me it, like it, because obviously it wasn't heavily populated,
Yeah.
So they had their own village, is what he's saying, but they definitely were not enemies.
Okay. There's evidence on certain digs that you guys practice cannibalism. Is that true? And it was just because you needed to eat, or was there some sort of ceremonial practice to it?
Well, he says we didn't go out. He said we didn't go out and go head hunting, for
Yeah.
people. Um, but he's telling me that it is no different than us going out and hunting deer or some other kind of animal and eating it. Um, it was the same. It was for survival,
Oh, yeah.
and he says, for us there was no difference. It wasn't like, oh, we can't eat that because of this.
Yeah.
It For him, he's saying it was no different than us going deer hunting, hog hunting,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Yeah.
Humans, it's the other white meat. Were you a migratory species? Like nomads?
He, yeah, he said we were. They didn't have, as he says, permanent residency. Residence like we do now. He said, yeah. He says, there was no, this is my house, this is my cave. He says, it wasn't like that, because you just stayed in a destination place for a certain period of time, and then you moved because you had to move, because you had to go where the resources were.
And also weather probably made you migrate.
Yes, yeah, definitely the weather.
Were you a patriarchal or a matriarchal society? Or neither?
I get like they were both, is what he's
Yeah.
saying.
That's what I'm
I
getting.
get both, yeah.
How did you communicate? Was it verbally, grunts and whatever, or did you have any kind of language, or was it telepathy?
He says the majority of it was telepathy. Of course, they made noises. I feel like they also had their own language,
Oh,
for certain things. That's what he's showing. They had their own language.
okay.
It wasn't like us learning the vowels or something like that, that we put attached to the sounds. But they had their own language, and
Like the word, the more vocalization rather than phonetics, like grunts and clicks and
he says yes, but I just feel like it was more than that.
yeah.
I'm trying to see how he's describing it. It's You could tell by the tone how things
Oh,
were, is what I'm getting.
oh,
Yeah, he says,
intonation.
like, you're just doing the, oh, okay,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And he
And
says that
gestures,
is,
like,
yeah. And he's telling me the oh and the oh, that is like our true self, like our true answers coming out, like,
oh,
those, yeah, just like you just
hmm.
did. He said,
Oh,
yeah.
now I'm totally aware of it. What about written language? Did you have any kind of written language? If so, that makes sense that I have a lot of Neanderthal in me, because my writing is like, if it's little scratches, it's Neanderthal scratches.
I don't feel like they had writing like sentences and stuff like that. How he shows me they did things more in pictures, drawings, and stuff.
Pictographs?
Yeah, just, yeah, like that. It's more drawings and stuff, um, to tell the story of what it is they're wanting.
Oh, yeah, like
I
drawing.
have that Neanderthal in me too. I did the 23andMe,
Yeah, I love
and
that.
I was
Mine was
just like,
55%, but I can't remember. Is it like you have more DNA than 55% of the others? I don't know.
yeah, I don't know.
Um,
Mine comes from my mother's side of the family.
oh, I thought with Rooney's big brow that he had more, but he's only 2%, more than 2%. Whatever. I can't remember how it goes. Okay. Did you have several partners, or were you monogamous as a general rule?
Well, he says monogamous wasn't a word that they used, and it's not. He says it's not. They didn't have possessions, and that's really kind of how they would have related that word to something, is a possession, and so there weren't any possessions. He's saying, there, he just calls it possessions is what he says. That's what that word means. Like you
Yeah.
have to stick to this one thing. And I don't feel like they did that. I just don't feel like they had that. But it wasn't that they were. It definitely wasn't cheating or anything like
No,
that.
if you don't figure. So basically, you did not mate for life. It was pretty much any port in the storm.
He says yes, but there were some people that stayed with one another. But I just don't get that that was something that they how would I say that, like they didn't put emphasis on that.
It's like with many animals in the wild, right? Some
Right.
mate for
Yeah.
life, some
Yeah.
have the contest between the alpha males, etc. Was there some
And
sort of
he's also, well, he also is saying, and they knew intuitively or instinctively, like there are some things that needed to keep going. So they knew like the I guess for me to understand, like certain DNA needed to continue with
yeah?
other people and stuff like that. So they just knew that it wasn't
Wow.
yeah, it just wasn't about, oh, you can't be with that person, or I want that man, or I want that woman.
So was there courtship, were mates assigned by elders, or was it like the Rams where they battled for the best females or something like that? Did you fall in love too?
Definitely a lot of emotion. I feel like a lot of emotions, like that same feeling, like he says, a lot of heart was going on, a lot of heart went on. But then there was some, you just, that's what you did was he says you mated for the purpose of co-creation,
Yeah.
um and I'm asking him, did they ever have cases of rape or stuff like that? Because
No.
you wonder, did they have that back then? And
Yeah.
he says, every species has something like that.
What about
Every species.
homosexuality? Was that practiced at all? It is in most animals.
He said yes, but it wasn't called that because it was a natural
Yeah.
process, and it was nobody thought anything about it he says he says we're both
Hmm.
energies, so nobody thought about it. And when he says nobody, he says, I'm sure there was one or two that might have done stuff, but it just didn't have that same content that we
Right.
have struggles with today.
Mm. So, but did you fall in love with the opposite or the same sex? Doesn't make a difference. Did you have the capacity to fall in love?
Oh yes, oh definitely, yes.
Okay, what was it? Was it courtship or assignment of mates, or you just mutually chose each other? Or
He tells me, it was all of the above. It just depends,
on the village?
yeah, because sometimes the parents would see their young kids and like say they were happy, like the Smiths were real happy and good friends with the Joneses. So when they had their kids, they would make an agreement for them two to come
Oh,
together, and stuff like that. Some of it was where, you just really, it was like what we would say love at first sight, um, and some of it was, it's like that's just what you do,
yeah.
and but it wasn't um but it wasn't till death do us part type of a relationship. But he's
Um,
showing me how, but because of how they were, it's like everybody worked together, you
okay.
know
They had
so
to.
it wasn't
Right.
like yeah, it wasn't like, you know the Bills over here do their thing, why the Johnsons are over here doing their thing. They all work together and doing things
Well,
together.
I mean, the population was pretty sparse. Did y'all engage in incest at all?
I do get that family members did intertwine from him,
Okay.
and he tells me because more of lack of information, not knowing, not knowing
Yeah.
things.
Yeah. All right. There's this book, Eaters of the Dead, which is basically Michael Crichton took the journals from this Moroccan journalist back in the Viking period. And the Vikings, he would follow them along and totally record everything. It was fascinating. You just felt like you were there in the Viking age. And one of the things that constantly occurred were these horrible monsters would come into the longhouse and eat a bunch of them and raid them, kill them. And many think that that was probably just a few remaining Neanderthals doing these attacks. Is that true?
He said yes.
What about, are any of you left anywhere, even in remote islands off of Greenland or anything like that?
He said no because of evolution, evolving and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah.
He said no. It's almost like they what we would call when extinct, yeah, is what he says. And it's because their tour of duty, as Erik says, was over with.
Oh. How long was your lifespan? I mean, average.
I'm getting like I'm getting up into the hundreds, like 80s to the hundreds. Some
Wow.
of them would live. Yeah.
What was the most common cause of death? Probably accidents, I'm saying.
When you said that, he said fallen, fallen. What he also shows me some is starvation that
Yeah.
went on. And they didn't really have the diseases like we have today.
I was going to ask.
Because,
yeah.
Yeah, because they didn't have the products that causes those diseases.
Yeah, the bad diets, processed food. Yeah.
Yeah, and the chemicals in the air and stuff
Yeah.
like that. But I get hunger is one, falling, and I because they had to. I get like they traveled a lot because he's showing me his feet,
Oh.
so they did a lot of walking, and I just get like falling and stuff, and I get like around a lot of big rocks,
Yeah.
and I'm like talking like almost boulder sized rocks and stuff like that. I just and sometimes there were attacks on them by other animals and
Yeah,
stuff.
sure. Or each other.
Yeah.
Did you ever murder? I mean, yes, hunting for food, but did you ever, were there any murders?
He said we did have personality conflicts,
Like here.
but yeah, he says definitely that was there. But as far as murders, I don't feel like they were that barbaric,
Okay.
but I do get that wasn't. I don't get that was a zero situation, like that never happened. I don't get that. What I feel from him, there were things that did happen, that
Yeah.
that
Okay.
split communities and stuff like that.
Now, I want to clarify the lifespan. I'm getting that the longevity, probably you're referring 80 to 100 is the longest ever living, because it seems like I've read that it's the average is not that long. But am I wrong?
Well, and when you say that, he's telling me like there were a lot of women who died during childbearing years
Okay.
because they just didn't have proper facilities or whatever to help with things. Yeah. So I do feel like that, and I also get that there was deaths amongst children, that was common.
Yeah.
but he says that they did live a long time,
Okay.
a good portion, but it depends on the region on
Oh,
where they
yeah.
were,
That
the
makes sense.
region. And but he says you are correct where their lifespan was maybe I'm getting he's
Average.
showing me
Yeah.
45, like
Okay.
45,
Yeah.
and that all depends on the region because that depends on the resources of what they have and stuff. And he says, and I also get from him sometimes that they kind of knew when their time was coming up.
Okay. Interesting. Wow.
Yeah.
Did you wear any body coverings, like clothes or coverings for your feet?
I get during different types of seasons or weathers, whether they wore
Regions?
stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, they wore covers, cover-ups or whatever.
Yeah,
Of
spurs,
course,
obviously, yeah.
yeah, it wasn't a sewn outfit. I don't see anything um, like that. But as he's shown me, they did learn how to pull things together with branches when you like peel the branches of
Oh,
something,
right.
and how they would pull things together with that, maybe,
Oh,
I don't know, tie something up or I don't know, but, he said they did wear clothing to a degree,
okay.
he's showing me, yeah, they did, but it depended on the region on where they lived as to what type of clothing they had on.
Okay. Did you have any religious beliefs? I'm gonna be looking up something real quick, while you answer that.
He says they did believe in, the astrology, like the sun. The sun and the stars and stuff. They did believe in
Oh,
that.
wow.
I also feel like they had a belief system in some form of God because it was not the Jesus God, not that kind
Yeah.
of God. It was some kind of gods, he said, and I feel like it's like this information was given to them when they came here or something like that. Is how
Oh,
he's
wow.
showing me.
Okay. Interesting. Because the ETs, I guess.
Yeah, I feel like it's something from there to like let them, but it wasn't like the gods like the churchy God like we have here. It wasn't like that type of religion. It was more of rituals. He said they had.
Okay. Did you have laws amongst yourselves? And if so, how were they enforced? Or was it
He
lived
laughs
freely?
when you say that. He laughs when you say that. Of course they would have stuff like you can't go past this brick wall, this wall of rocks past a
Oh,
certain
yeah.
time of day and stuff that they had stuff like that. Um, they had those kind of things. It was more about for protection. Um, but there wasn't I don't feel like they had I feel like they had curfews, like you
Oh,
can only
they
go
probably
here at
have to.
certain time,
Yeah.
you can only go there at certain times and stuff like that because he said they were a hard-working bunch because and I feel like they did a lot of traveling.
Sounds like it. They were very nomadic.
Yeah, I just feel like a lot of traveling.
Okay.
And, yeah, and he says this is where you're getting wanting to know if they wore shoes now because I feel like they used animal skin and
Okay.
parts of plant life to wrap around their feet.
Oh. The thing I was looking up was in 1925, a Neanderthal surgeon may have performed trepanation, drilling a hole in the 40,000 years ago, the first surgical procedure that ever was made in the human. Could you tell me about that? Why did a Neanderthal drill a hole in another Neanderthal's head? I don't even know if he was dead or alive. So,
Wowee. Um, he's telling me that I feel like there was ET assistance with that.
oh, it may have been. to relieve pressure on the brain after head injury, or to release evil spirits from the head. I mean, why was the one that was found? Why was that done?
He's showing me that it was to relieve pressure, but not pressure so that they live like we do now, and they have pressure and we go in there and do something. I feel like it was a ritual type event is what went on.
Okay.
And I also get like he's showing me it's something like they believed that the brain stored some valuable
Oh,
substance of something like that.
I think in this case, there was bone growth after the trepanation. So, maybe they
Wow.
said, oh, head hurts or whatever. And then they just did that to see if it would help, or who knows.
Yeah, I don't get that because they didn't really have any anesthesia like we do, but they did have stuff, you know, plant life type stuff to help numb things
Yeah.
but I don't get from him like they were at that time and space where they were performing surgeries on people.
All right. I don't think so either. All right. Let's go ahead and stop part one and we will restart. And y'all hit the notification bell so you don't miss part two because this is fascinating. I think there's going to be many parts because we've only done like 12 questions and we got 54. So,
Wow.
anyway, bye, Eric. I love you. Denise, I love you. You guys check Denise Ramon out at deniseramon.com. Bye.